Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Fantastic. So, we've already got a bunch of people watching. So, hello there. We are going to talk about how to finally write that business book, or specifically your business book, I suppose. Right, let me make sure that I've got everything set up here. So, if you are watching live, we are live. Hello, how you doing? Make sure you allow StreamYard to read your comments. I think you've got to click a link in this live post somewhere on the whatever it is. And yeah, and if you're watching the replay, just put book, in the comments, just to let me know. Hey guys, how's it going? Is this your next book topic / course? I think that's Emily. Hey Emily, we've got a few here. Beth says she can't make it, but she'll have to watch the replay. No worries. Hey Matt, how's it going? Hello friend. Hey buddy, how's it going? Oh, and well, thank you very much for the quotes for my latest book, Matt. So look, I think we're just going to kind of dive into this. So hello, if you are watching, please, please, please just post a comment. Just let me know. Hey, how's it going? Bonjour, Emily. Just let me know that people are watching. I obviously can see I'm using StreamYard, but it's good for me to be able to see that anyway. And yeah, I really want to talk about how we're going to approach, or how you can approach writing that next book. So bonjour, Anshan. Hello. So this is basically the perfect time to write your business book. There's a few reasons why. First of all, because of the launch of my latest book, Five Figure Funnels, which is literally moments away. We've had a couple of snags, unfortunately. We've had to um, push it back by a couple of weeks, but c'est la vie. I've had a bunch of people reach out to me and say, "Hey man, how would I write my book? Hey guys, how's it going?" Make sure if you are watching this live on Facebook that you head over to, I think it's streamyard.com/Facebook, and give your permission so I can see who's watching. I think I can just see YouTube ones anyway. Um, I've had a bunch of people ask me, how do I write that book? Often when I reach out to people and I say, what can I help with? I've had tons of people come back with, how do I write a business book? Or I've got an idea for a business book. How did I do it? How did you do it? And I kind of wanted to cover that off today, but also share with you, share share something with you guys on how we can help you out with that. So it's the perfect time to write a book for a few reasons. First of all, right now you can't go anywhere. So you've probably got an hour extra a day, because if you're not traveling to and from work. The nights are longer because it's summertime, at least on our side. If you're over in Australia and New Zealand, it's the opposite, but it's a perfect time to write it because you've got a little bit more time. More people are reading at the moment, and book sales have spiked. I've seen my book sales go up. I've seen our content go up because more people are around to write it. And here's the best thing: you can actually write a book in like 60 days. From Single to Scale, my first book took something like 65 days to write. Universe Fuel took something like 59 days or less. The current book we've got is about 60 days as well. So there's loads and loads and loads of opportunity here to basically create something that's forever yours. I think the initial thing we need to understand is that writing a book isn't going to make you a millionaire through the sales. Even the biggest authors in the world don't make a huge amount from the actual books. They make a little bit from royalties and stuff, and maybe if you're a big name, they'll give you some money up front. But as someone who has been a published author and had a publisher kind of approach you, you make some good money, but you don't make a huge amount of money. The way that a book becomes valuable, especially a business book becomes valuable, is it's more likely to get you speaking gigs than ever. It's an amazing giveaway tool, and it's a great way to pay for the cost of acquisition of leads. And I'll talk about that in a bit. So your book will make you money, but it won't make you money through necessarily the actual revenue or royalties you generate from that book. Self-publishing now, personally, I don't think there's a massive difference between being a published author and self-published. There's as much work goes into both of them. Personally, I am going to be self-publishing. In fact, we've set up a publishing company just to take on my own books and potentially some other ones in the future, because I don't really see how a publisher adds anything to the equation that I can't do myself outside of promotion, which I do for our own books and products. the shift in the publishing and the content model is completely changed. It's interesting that I think it happened with video first, with the advent of YouTube. It then happened with podcasting, and now it's beginning to become more mainstream for books. So I think it's a fantastic time to write your own business book. The problem comes, of course, when the three main reasons that people struggle with writing a book is they either don't think they've got a good idea for a book, which you do. I promise you that you do have a great idea for a book. You just haven't had it drawn out of you yet. You haven't had it written down and structured on paper to the point where you think that's what I'm going to write about. You also don't know how to write a book. Um, it's actually not that complex, but I think a lot of people overcomplicate the process. And I think there's a couple of critical mistakes that people make during the process of writing a book that kills the book before it's even kind of like finished. You also might not think that you're a natural writer. Typically, those are the three reasons. And on the stage of a natural writer, like, I've got good news. No one is a natural writer. There's no such thing as a natural writer. It's something you have to learn, just like no one's a natural driver. No one's a natural artist, graphic designer, web developer. It's a skill like any other. If you remember being graded on your writing skill at school and getting bad grades or mediocre grades, or even if you got good grades, you just found it very difficult. The good news is that everything you learned at school has basically got nothing to do with being able to write a book today. The methodology that you are taught to write at school, you've got two methods, right? You've got academic writing, which is basically writing essays and reports, and then you've got creative writing. Creative writing is kind of pushed aside at one point, and you kind of think, well, you're kind of taught, well, now we need to learn academic writing and proper writing. And the irony is that's not writing that's read. Creative writing is where we should have put our time and effort, and I think creative writing is where children should be taught now. But even if you thought, well, I'm just not good, I'm not creative, that's fine. I'm naturally, I'm not brilliantly creative. I'm certainly not a natural writer, but through following templates and processes in place, even the best writers in the world have templates, they have processes, they have systems, they have editors as well. They have a writing process, they have a writing methodology, and then they have an editing methodology, and then a publishing methodology. So it's not about writing the book perfectly from day one. We've got someone in this office who is a 3 times best-selling Times in the UK, as in the newspaper, 3 times best-selling Times newspaper, best-selling author. And their latest book, which they sent over to their editors, came back and was basically going to have to be rewritten from scratch. There's no such thing as someone who is just able to knock it out of the park every single day. However, with a business book, you're able to apply much more of a formula and come up with a process for being able to write every single day. You have got a great idea for a book, you just haven't put it into a clear and direct methodology. You don't need any special skills at all. You don't need any special software. You don't need any special talent. All of mine is done with Word, basically. I just use Microsoft Word or Google Docs. I don't use any special. People have like Scrivener and Readsy and Writable and OpenPage and all these kind of crazy writing pieces. And that's fine, but you don't need any of that shit. It shouldn't cost you a penny just to write a book. That's the beautiful thing about this process. What it also does is it's better than a portfolio. Frankly, it's better than a website. Having a written book for your methodology and from your process adds immense weight and credibility to who you are, both as an expert and a business. I've got a process to be able to get you to 70,000 words in under 60 days, right? However, you don't actually need to write 70,000 words. You can have a smaller or a shorter book, like a micro book, something that's much shorter and smaller and is given away much easier. But if you can have a book and give that to customers and use that as a part of your sales process, you'll find that you can increase your prices much easier. It's very difficult to negotiate price with an expert. And when you say, well, I've written the book on it, it's very difficult for them to go, oh, actually, can we get a discount? Because you go, no, because I'm the expert. I think the part of the problem is people think, well, I've got this idea for a book, and now I'm sitting down and I go completely blank. A micro book, Emily says, for the lazy girl like me. So, Emily, one, calling yourself lazy, we both know that's not true. But a micro book is a perfectly legitimate option for getting that first book out there. Rob Moore in the UK does this a lot, like routine equals results, and is it like value yourself more or something? I can't remember. Those are like micro books. Um, there's loads of smaller sort of 10, 20,000 word books that are out there that are just published. They're dirt cheap. They charge like $1.99 and they're a hyper specific area. Again, all of this is showing that you're the expert. Surely only an expert would have something to like 10,000 words or 70,000 words or 60,000 words to say about this. A nice 50 to 100 page book is perfect for a small offer, absolutely. And even the bigger ones, the larger books are still perfect within that kind of model. So a lot of the reasons that people don't start is they kind of sit down and they have writer's block. Writer's block doesn't exist. It's a complete myth. It's a really good way of saying to yourself, well, I can't be bothered to write something. And usually the reason that people suffer from writer's block is because they haven't got a template or a process. There's a reason that the Beatles and the current, is it Dr. Fox, I think, is like one of the guys who writes like of the top 20 songs in the chart, 15 of them are his, because they have a process and they have a formula for being able to smash these songs out. Same with the Beatles. The Beatles had a process. They had a writing process for being able to smash these songs out. Was the song in perfect working condition as soon as it's written? Absolutely not, but that's not the point. The battle is getting the ideas out on paper first. There's no such thing as writer's block when you have a process that you're able to just work through. It doesn't mean that every single day you're going to enjoy writing. Okay, fine. All right. Just like every single day we don't enjoy doing the things we do, but with a process and with a formula, you can just get it out there. And the funny thing is as soon as you start writing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, your brain switches over and thinks, all right, fine, I'm going to do this. Let's just get it out there, and continuing to write that process. If you want to write a book, but you don't have any book ideas, if you run a business, you know how powerful a book could be. But I promise you, you do have a book idea in you. You've probably got dozens of book ideas in you. You just haven't been shown how to get those ideas on paper, and usually that's because we haven't thought through the end result that you would bring. We've talked about this before, values and principles, but you've got ideas, you've got processes, you've got systems. All of that is worth documenting and writing out into a book. So if you want to write a book and you think, actually it's something I want to do, I'd love to be a published author, but I don't have a book idea, I promise you that you do, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Maybe you think there's loads of business books already, and there's a lot of competition out there, but there's also a lot of people driving and there's a lot of people walking. It doesn't mean that when you get your driving license it's any less meaningful. It doesn't mean when you take your first steps it's any less meaningful. It doesn't mean that when you have your website finally live it's any less powerful or meaningful. It's all about making sure that you have sales collateral and content and authority and weight behind your business and your name and your brand. Doesn't matter what else is out there. What's also important to know is there are billions of books on diet, right? Diet's a really interesting one. There's billions of books on dieting, but there are also billions of different diets. Having the book, having the business book and the idea and writing out that process shows your differentiator. It shows where you are different. There's 1,000,001 books on cooking, but there are also 1,000,001 different ways that chefs or the cooking book authors show off why they are different. And this is really important to understand. It's not about having the first book in the market. It's about having a different book. And like I said, chances are the first book you write is not going to become a bestseller. Bit of a side note, by the way, a lot of the bestseller lists are things that you buy your way onto. You basically say to the New York Times, which everyone seems to think is like the best thing in the world. And if you're watching this, I can't believe why you would be, and you are a New York best-selling Times author, you know this to be the case. It's a case of basically buying 10,000 books and being friends with the editor. There are other methodologies for measuring a best-selling book. I'm a best-selling author, but I can assure you it was extremely engineered and we had to work our balls off to get that bestseller status. It's not about the fact that there's loads out there. It's about that it could add massive weight to your business. And being able to leave a book with your process with a customer is going to make it very difficult for them to negotiate against you. When someone says, okay, well, why didn't you work with me? They're going to say, well, because the other person basically had a written book and a process and we've gone through it. If you're worried that your business idea or your book idea isn't any good, there's some really simple ways for us to be able to test that. So you can validate your ideas. We can take ideas from content. We can take ideas from posts. We can do smoke tests. Being able to validate your idea is half of it, but also you're always going to have a fear that your book idea isn't that great. And there's a way to be able to get over that and commit to it and think, do you know what, I'm just going to get this out there, even if I think the idea is so, or there's so many people's out there. There's already loads of books about this out there. None of that matters, right? It's completely irrelevant. And just because 99.9% of the population of the world is never even going to hear of the book, yet alone buy it, it doesn't mean that the tiny fraction of a percent who do hear about it and buy it and enjoy it, it's not going to make their lives easier, make their lives better, but it's also going to add value to your business. If you feel that when you sit down and you really struggle with blogging, again, not a problem. If you feel that you sit down and struggle to write scripts or sales letters or sales content, or even turning on the video and just making a video and your mind goes blank and you've got no idea what to say, not a problem. I used to have that problem all the time. I would sit down and think, well, now what the hell am I going to write? When you come up with a writing structure that gives you a daily writing plan and you are told what to do, it's so much easier because you don't have to think. Even if you're hungover, you still haven't finished your coffee, you can sit down and think, I'm just going to talk about this one bullet point. Everyone watching this, everyone who we're going to invite, they have all got opinions and things they want to say about a specific topic. The interesting part, and we see this time and time and time again, and I'm in several, author groups, book writing groups, business book writing groups, all of this stuff. Their biggest problem is not reaching 70,000 words or 60,000 words. And a decent book, by the way, I say 70,000 for this reason, because you're going to edit it down significantly. Getting to that 50,000 is not the problem. It's actually cutting it back to 50,000 or 60,000 afterwards, because you find you have so much more to say. 10,000 copies. Interesting. Reminds me of the guys who got #1 movie in the US a couple of weeks ago by booking out a cinema and all the tickets to themselves. Yeah, it was kind of like an indie film, right? Because all the cinemas were shut. But that's basically it. It's like when Tim Ferriss says in his book, the 4 Hour Work Week, like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I finally got the call. I said, Tim, you've made the bestseller list. I was like, that shouldn't have been a fucking surprise to you because you bought your place there. That's not to take away from the fact that the book is extremely successful and it's great and he's had an incredible career beforehand. But the reality is he bought that position. All right. So don't put all your weight on bestseller lists because they don't mean as much as you might think they do. It's all very well engineered. Last few points. If you can't organize your ideas, you've got they're all ethereal, they're floating around in your head and you think, I know what I want to write about, something to do with business, something to do with innovation or design, and I know that I want to write it. And also, by the way, it doesn't matter if you want to write a book for your customers or your colleagues. My first book, From Single to Scale, wasn't really for my customers at the time, it was really for my colleagues. Doesn't matter. It still adds weight. It still shows that you've got credibility. It's still a fantastic way to be able to generate speaking engagements and also product opportunities in the future. But if you've got a ton of ideas floating around your head, you'll need a system and a structure for being able to put that into place and rigidly say, this is the order that I'm going to write it in. And here's what's interesting. The order that you write it in isn't necessarily the order that you read it in. What you write is the same when I talk about proposals, sales letters, blog posts. You're going to write some parts of it first and then go back and write other parts of it. But it might be that the things you write last and later are actually the things that you end up reading first. Lol, I wrote an Amazon bestseller, fantastic, in one category for 24 hours. Details. Jocelyn, you're speaking my language. That's absolutely, and that's fine. It's good. It's great to have that. Like it's important to be able to push it to that point, and it does help a little bit with rankings later on. But it's all about engineering it. It's a bit like being ranked #1 for a search term. It's all about the preparation you put in beforehand. So, here's essentially what we're doing. July, let me make sure I've got the right dates here. July 23rd and July 30th, we are going to be doing live workshops on writing your first business book. July the 23rd at 5 p.m. UK. So I'm not entirely sure what specifically time that is wherever you are. We can kind of figure that out. It's basically an hour from now, 40 minutes from now if you're watching this live. There you go. I think it's something like 9 p.m. Mountain Time, maybe. Don't quote me on that. 5 p.m. UK is definitely the time. And if you're interested, let me know and we'll try and figure out the times. July the 23rd at 5 p.m. UK, which is a Thursday, we're going to go through a 2-hour workshop. It's going to be 2 hours, it's going to be hardcore. We're going to smash through it. And then July the 30th, another 2-hour workshop, Thursday, July the 30th at 5 p.m. UK. The first workshop, July the 23rd at 5 p.m. UK, is what makes a great idea for a book, making sure that you've got all of that out on paper and then choosing the right idea for your business book and the right idea for your business. We're also going to go through book structure. It's not just a random vomit of words and just getting 70,000 random words on the page. There's a structure to the book. And interestingly, when you understand the structure of the book, you begin to think, well, this is the part that I need to write. The introductions, the myths, the mistakes, the stories, the case studies, the actual meat and the solution, author credits, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going for a structure within your book that you'll be able to think, yep, I know what the book's going to look like when I'm finished. I know the process and the journey that someone's going to go on, which is going to make it a lot easier for you to sell it and write it. We're going to talk about actually getting your idea on paper, physically, how to write out the process and the idea that you've got for your particular business book. And we're going to cover off writing methods as well, because it's not just one writing method. There's loads of different writing methods. And I want to make sure that you have all of the writing methods available. We're going to go through your content ideas and chapter layout, which is to basically break down all of your ideas that you've got and turn them into a cohesive story that you think, yeah, I can just start writing this out. The reason I love this particular method that I'm going to teach you is if I'm really not in the mood to talk about opt-in conversion rates, I can go through all of my content ideas and think, actually, I'm going to talk about how to write the perfect headline today. So you just smash out that headline and then you're able to place that in the book because you know the structure of the book already. Basket weaving using alphabet spaghetti coming for that #1 spot. It's a #1 bestseller already, mate. I'm not surprised. I can't believe it hasn't been written. While it was, and Anshin here says, Jocelyn, me too. While it was in its free 3-day period, just went and looked for the screenshot because I totally forgot about it. Cool. We've got loads of best-selling authors in here. This is amazing. And then finally, the last thing we'll cover off on the first workshop is the daily writing plan. So this is making sure that every single day you know what you're going to write. You're able to just sit down, look at your screen and think, that's what I'm talking about today. So that's the first workshop, July the 23rd at 5 p.m. UK. The second workshop, which is a week later, we're going to talk about progress and motivation, because I promise you there's always the dip. There's a part where you're going to drop off and think, I cannot be bothered to write this anymore. There is a book called, I think it's like 101 Philosophical Experiments by philosopher Roger Poldroy, and one of the experiments is counting to 1,000. And if anyone has ever counted to 1,000 before, it seems very sequential. First you go up to 100, then you go up to 200, then you go up to 300. But weirdly, even though it's a very linear sequence, there's peaks, there's troughs, there's parts that go really quickly, there's parts that take ages, there's parts where you think, I'm never going to get to the end, there's parts you think, I can't believe I've almost finished. The process of writing a book is very, very similar. It's not linear. You're not just going to think, right, I'm going to churn this out. Some days are going to be easy, some days are going to be hard, and we're going to talk about that on workshop #2, which is why it's a week later, because by that point you should have written between 5 and 10,000 words. We're going to look through how to use a book for lead generation and sales. So I'm going to talk about the hacks that we've learned from publishers, from huge authors, about where we can place your book within your sales cycle, both as a lead generation tool, both as a sales tool, as a promotional tool, where it can fit within your business. There's a ton within that bit. We're then going to look at when to edit and when to publish, which sounds like a funny question, but knowing when to edit the book is as important as knowing when to write it and how to write it. And there are specific times that you should be editing and should be publishing. We're going to look at publishing options, as I've talked about in the past, and the different ways of getting the book out there. And finally, we're going to look at promotion, the real basic stuff that you need to do to get your book out there and to make sure that it it does everything it can for your business without overwhelming you. So those are the two workshops that we've got, July 23rd and the July 30th, both happening at 5 p.m. UK. If you head to sellyourservice.co.uk/your hyphen first hyphen book, go ahead and read that. This is a paid workshop. It's a one-time payment. It's a $297 payment. Now, this will give you the live workshops. So there's two-hour workshops. So it's about 4 hours in total. We're obviously going to give you the recordings. There's going to be a ton of worksheets. There's going to be a ton of templates, but these are workshops. These are not just going to be me yelling at you for 2 hours. We're going to spend some time working on those specific ideas. There's going to be actual writing. You're going to walk away with a clear idea of what your book is. You're going to walk away with a clear idea of what the ideas and the structure is for your book. You're going to have a clear idea of how much you need to write per day. You're going to have a clear idea of what you need to write every single day. So if you head to sellyourservice.co.uk/your hyphen first hyphen book, you can go ahead and check that out. Most people never getting around to writing a book, as we've talked about, because they don't think they have a good idea, which we're going to cover off. I'm going to show you that you've got a ton of good ideas, some great book best business book ideas that you could possibly come up with floating around your head, and we're going to get them on paper. If you've got no idea how to write a book, I'm going to take you through my ludicrously simple writing process and all the different methods that you can have for writing a book. And if you don't think you're a natural writer, we're going to completely eliminate that, because I'm going to show you that you've probably already written the majority of the content already. If you can answer emails and write emails, you can write a best-selling book. It doesn't even have to be a best-selling book. You can write a book. If you want to be able to have a book that you can give to customers, you can basically go ahead and create that for them. You can go ahead and create that. Oh, sorry, I thought I had shared the link. Now, why isn't that posting to Facebook? Sorry, guys, sellyourservice.co.uk/your hyphen first hyphen book. Oh, thank you, Matt. Thank you very much for the link in there. And I'll make sure to push this out here as well. There's an ugly truth as well behind being a published author and a self-publishing. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. Not one is better necessarily than the other, but there is absolutely no less legitimacy and hard work, frankly, behind a self-publishing book and publishing a book. I'm going to talk about my experiences of publishing a book. Not all it's cracked up to be by a long stretch of the imagination. If you've ever feel you've got writer's block, or you think I've got an idea for a book, but I don't know how to get started, join us on the 23rd, July the 23rd, Thursday, 5 p.m. UK, and you will see how we can start getting those ideas on paper. You'll see how we can start getting that book written, and you'll see the methodology and right. So let's say that starts in July the 23rd. August, by the end of September, you could have the first draft of a manuscript written, comfortably written, not even by like scraping through. And you don't even have to write that many words. You probably write 1,000 words a day comfortably just through proposals, emails, Facebook, texting. So imagine being able to put all of that into place and saying, actually, I'm just going to put that towards a book, and you got a 60,000 book. Since Mel and I are basically the same person, can we go splitsies on the price? If anything, Matt, I'm gonna charge you extra. I'll charge you both extra. If anything, just for the sake of it, you know. If you can write an email, you can write and publish a best-selling book. It's pretty much simple like that. So some of the stuff we're going to cover off as well. Using tools like Grammarly and Spellcheck, people think are a lot of good ideas, and that's categorically wrong. Some of the best-selling writing tools out there and the most popular writing tools out there will kill your book before you've even had a chance to writing them. They will kill the writing process, and they make it a real grind. So I'm going to talk about where to avoid those types. There's also this weird nonsense typing trick that I use literally every single day to help churn out 1,000+ words. On average, I'll do 5,000 words a day for the book, for the blog posts, all of that kind of stuff. And it starts with this really weird nonsense typing trick that I was taught a long time ago. It's not your fault, I want to say, if you think that you don't know how to write, or you don't have no ideas for writing, or you're not a natural writer. The way that we are graded writing all the way through our education process is the exact opposite of how we write in the real world. academic writing, report writing, writing for university, writing reports, and essays and stuff. They've got their place, but that's not how books are written, and it's a real grind. So one of the hacks that I learned when writing essays at university, I did product design, but my drawing skills were so awful that I had to tack on a marketing degree in order to be able to pass. And it was a lot of writing. And I thought, I'm actually going to write the essays in a completely different way. I'm not going to sit there and think of the structure. So I basically went away and I would find 20 different marketing books and I would think, car sales go up in the winter. And I'll just pick a random topic and I'd go and find 20 different marketing books and find quotes to support that very basic premise. And then I would write the essay around the quotes. That's how I basically got my degree. That's how I got my uh, whatever it's called, Chartered Institute as well. And that's apparently the wrong way to write academic papers, but it is the correct way to write a business book. It's the correct way to write best-selling books, is to actually take the source material first and then write, rather than thinking I'm going to write this book and then go and find a load of supporting articles. So there's a ton of different ways of being able to flip and break the traditional writing models that I think are completely broken. Sales Genius 2, yep, that's one of our books as well. So I'm a published author in that as well. So that's the third book, which is published by an independent company. So I'm in that as well. What has Grammarly got about adding hyphens to everything? I don't know. Personally, I think Grammarly is really good for one particular thing, but it's not a good writing tool. As we mentioned, just some of my credentials for those who maybe don't know me or haven't watched before. My name is Mike Killen. I am the best-selling author of Universe Fuel, From Single to Scale, Sales Genius 2. I'm a self-published author and a published author. I've got my upcoming book, Five Figure Funnels. I've written thousands of blog posts that attract hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of email campaigns, thousands of sales letters. And because I follow these writing processes, I'm able to create an enormous amount of content, but I don't do a huge amount of writing. And that's the funny thing about it. Even if you don't think you've got a good idea for a book, even if you think you've got a great idea for a book, but you've got no idea how to write, or if you think you are not a natural writer, go ahead and check out sellyourservice.co.uk/your first book, or your hyphen first hyphen book. Did Grammarly do the URL for that? Maybe, I don't know. That's what we're going to go through. 2 2-hour workshops. We're going to talk about book structure, ideas, and chapter. Lead generation hacks to get the most from your book, to make sure that it works hard for you, because it's like a 24 hours a day sales process. A full plan of what to write every single day, what ideas work and what to write, how to test all of your ideas and validate your ideas before you waste any time on them. The perfect chapter structure, as well as the perfect book structure, how to easily get to 70,000 words. We're going to go through the writing process, when to write, when to edit, and when to publish, and separate those three out. And we're going to go through an end game of publishing and promotion, so that you're not just left with a book. I'm going to talk through the process of how you're able to actually physically get it out there. Here's what I'd say if you're on the fence. What I'm going to teach you is about creating the narrative structure of the book, getting your ideas on paper and putting it all down. But this is a workshop. It's not necessarily just information. We're going to sit down and you're going to actually physically write out, either using post-it notes, note cards, your laptop, whatever, and you're going to write the book before you've written the book. You'll have the entire structure, and it means that you're able to hold yourself accountable. This is a workshop for people who want to actually take action and walk away from 2020 knowing they've written a book, written a business book. Throughout this process, in this year alone, we've written 3, and it's because I follow these principles every single day, and it allows me to get all of my ideas out on paper. If you think there's too much competition already, you're probably right, but it doesn't matter, because there's so much opportunity available out there for us. Also, the funny thing about writing a book is it begins to create content in other areas. You'll find that once you've written it, you'll be able to create podcasts, videos, sales letters, blog posts, webinars, Facebook Live groups, all of this kind of stuff much, much easier after you've done the hard work of the content up front. So go ahead and check out sellyourservice.co.uk/your first book. And I will see you on those live calls on July the 23rd and July the 30th at 5 p.m. UK. If people have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the comments here. If you're watching the replay, type the word book as well. It's always good for me to see. who's watching the replay, and when they comment. That always helps out. If people have got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. If people want to write them in the comments, I will gladly take any kinds of questions. And let me just turn this down a bit. There we go. Thank you. Okie dokie. I've got tons of ideas, but I've got no idea which one would be the best one. Okay, yeah. So that's a really common one, is to have a load of ideas, and to not know which one you should go after. And there's a kind of a two-part process for this. First of all, we're going to see, do any of those ideas clump together and become the book? That's usually actually, there's three answers to this. First of all, we're going to clump together some of those ideas, because probably there's actually more of a narrative theme to all of them than you might think. It might be that once some of those ideas are a book by themselves, but it might be that some of them can come together and be part of the stronger narrative to your book. The second thing is, let's test the ideas and see, well, which one is going to be the most popular, which is the one that people are searching for already, which is the one that gets the most traffic. Let's do what we call a smoke test. And the third thing is, one of the problems with writing a book is that when you're writing it, you'll get two other ideas. It's like a hydra. All right, you'll write the book and you'll think, actually, that's a really good idea for a book, and that's a really good idea for a book, and you'll put them away in, Quip or Notebook or whatever, and you'll think, yeah, I'm going to write that later. That's a really big problem, and that happens all the time. But it's about knowing that you don't finish a marathon until you've finished a marathon. You've got to commit to the book you're writing already, get that out of the way, publish it and push it out there and get it done, and then move on. So those are the three things that I would say. I've never written a blog post, yet alone a book. How would I possibly get to 70,000 words? Yeah, so I often say your business needs to have a 10,000 word blog post, and some people have committed to that, and they've seen the light and written that. If you've never written anything before, there's no problem with that whatsoever. Probably because you've already written 70,000 words worth of content in your emails to customers, in Facebook questions, in groups and searches, all of that kind of stuff across your website. There's no reason why you wouldn't have the capability to write 70,000 words. Rome wasn't built in a day. But in the space of writing 2,000 words a day, which is not a huge amount, in 60 days, you could comfortably have, 1,000 words a day in 60 days, you could comfortably have a book in under 2 months. If you said, well, I'm going to write 2,000 words a day in 30 days, that's an entire book in a month. It's not quick, it requires a lot of dedication, and you have to put aside a certain amount of time for it. But the problem with writing is people want to have perfect writing first, and that's one of the biggest things we've got to cover off, is that when you're writing, you're writing. When you're editing, you're editing. Don't edit as you write. The point is to just get it out on paper and fix it later. Writing is not the process of actually carving it out of stone. This is the funny thing. If you have got um, you're wanting to create a marble sculpture. This is all relatable. People carve stuff out of marble all the time, right? If you wanted to carve a marble structure, or in my latest book, I talk about carving steps into the side of the mountain. The writing process is just carving it, just getting it done, just getting it up and out there. The editing process is polishing it later on. You have to separate those two. People have writer's block because they think, well, I need to write the first sentence perfectly, or I can't think about what to write. You just need to get it out on paper, vomit it out, and then go back and edit it later. That's why there's a process for when to write and when to publish. Cool. Any other questions at all? I don't think so. Can't publish. Oh, that's fine. Okie dokie. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Massively appreciate it. Head to sellyourservice.co.uk /your-first-book and join me on July the 23rd, where we're going to do a live workshop on how to write your first business book, getting all your ideas. Even if you're starting from complete scratch, you just think, yeah, I want to write a book, and you've got nothing else with you, that is absolutely fine. We're going to take you through that process with our two-hour workshops 1 week apart. Thank you very much for watching. Massively appreciate you sticking around with me, guys. Have courage, commit, and take action.